number of problems. Right? You have a limited knowledge of how many problems there are. You know the ones that affect you. So some of the best projects that students I've seen do in hackathons and in our lab have to do with solving problems that they know, because they're the user, right? And that is an easy way to find something that create something useful, because you create something useful for yourself, so you find a problem that had something to do with yourself. But we don't have to do that. There's other ways to solve problems. We can solve problems that are greater than ourselves, that are bigger and harder than just ourselves. And hopefully we'll find some of those. The point of Hack NC is to actually solve some problems for the state, right? Can we come up with something that solves problems and also learn while we're doing it? So today we're going to talk about how do we create desirable products, or ideas to ultimately create a product that you might be able to build here at Hack NC. So I want to open it up to you. What makes a good product?
Yeah. So a good product either is something new, solves a problem, or I think even just fills a gap, right?
Fills a gap. Okay.
That's ideal for our users.
So some things are utility, right? It's better than the other one, right? Okay. Does anybody use Evernote? Okay. When Evernote was coming out, there was already note-taking software. There was Microsoft SharePoint, and everyone thought that SharePoint was this horrible thing that everybody hated, right? And still hates today. But the question is like, well, why would you create this note-taking thing when you got SharePoint that's like backed by Microsoft and all that? Because they could do it better. Okay? And the company at Evernote uses human-centered design practices like we're going to talk about today. What else? What makes a good product? Yes.
Maybe easy to understand.
Easy to understand. What do you mean?
Like not something that's like too complex so that people can understand what the purpose of it is.
So the user has ease of use, right? You make it as easy as possible. Frictionless user, right? The user can do the job without. So let's take a hammer. What makes a hammer a good hammer? Yes.
You can turn it into a
Okay, so there's this saying that to a hammer everything looks like a nail, right? You can turn anything into. So a hammer can be used for a lot of different things, right? We can nail something with it. We can pull nails out, but we can also bust a hole in the wall. Right? We can do a lot of things with a hammer. Okay. But what makes a hammer good? What's a good hammer?
It's the way you use it and the way you
Okay, so there's a handle. There's a thing. No one's ever grabbed a hammer the other way and tried to use it, right? It's just natural. It feels right. Okay. So ease of use. It's pretty easy. It's a tool that does one thing basically. Flip it around and does a second thing, but it's pretty easy to know what to do. So what he was talking about, the way the user uses it is pretty easy. Okay. But why is there an $8 hammer and a $40 hammer? You go to Home Depot. There's a wall of hammers. What makes an $8 hammer different than a $40 hammer?
The brand.
Okay, trusted brand. Well, what makes it trusted? Why do you trust the brand?
If you're known for like good products.
Good products. What makes a good product? Go back
Like
to the
one
same
that
circle.
lasts like a long time.
Lasts a long time. Durability. Okay. What else?
I mean, like if it looks good. Like
Okay.
nice design.
Design, aesthetics. Okay. So will I pay $40 or $30 more for a hammer that looks good? Maybe. Okay. Who would? In this room, would you pay $40 for a hammer that looks good? Only looks good. It's the same hammer, just one's pretty and one's not. Right? Probably not. Okay. Oh, we got one? Okay. So I heard someone say, "I'll buy anything that's made by Apple." Well, they don't care if it works or not. They just care that it looks good and is made by Apple, right? That's what I'm getting to here. Okay. Most of the time, you won't spend the extra money to buy something just because it looks good. There has to be some benefit to it, right? Some extra benefit. Okay. Also depends on the user. If I'm just hanging up pictures in your dorm room, any hammer will do. An $8 hammer will probably be fine. But if I am a construction worker and I'm framing houses all day long, every day, every swing of that hammer, my arm's going to get tired, right? So I want the most comfortable hammer. I want the one that has the most efficient use of my effort, right? And so it solves a problem. Incrementally, but it solves a problem. It is a useful tool. Okay? So what we're going to get to today is how do we get to the point where we make a better hammer? Okay? I'm not going to build hammers in here. But how do we make something that is useful that people will desire to have? Okay? So let's talk about desirability. Might have heard this word. What do you think desirability means? I'll start picking on people. Gotta have it, right? You have a keynote, a big tech keynote, where somebody comes out on the stage wearing sneakers and a sports coat, or maybe a t-shirt. Lights are going off, and they show this new shiny product, and everybody's like, I'm going to pay $1,500 for a phone, and I'm going to order it right now. Okay? Somehow there's desirability there. Right? Okay. Any other definitions? Really academic definition here. Make stuff that people want. That's our goal, right? You gotta want it, right? It's gotta do something. And a way we do that is to solve a problem, but ultimately we want to make something that you desire, that you want. Okay? So people don't go to the hardware store to buy a drill. They go to the hardware store to buy the hole the drill makes. Okay. Now, I am on a roll here with hardware and tools. But you get the idea that, like, I didn't actually go to buy a drill. Okay? I needed a drill. The drill did the job, but ultimately I needed something that needed a hole. So I got a drill to get a hole. Okay? So we're talking about making the drill, but we're not selling them the drill. We're actually selling them the value of what the drill does. Okay? And value is the key word here. The value proposition. What value can we deliver to our users or our customers, if you have a bit? You need to think about your users, and we're going to talk about defining your users in a second. Okay? Which problem are we helping that user solve? It must be an existing problem. Okay? And what need do we satisfy? So it might be a problem, but they don't actually need it solved. So here's an example. In our house, we have pine needles that fall from our trees into the yard. Okay? And there's a rake, and a rake will rake up those pine needles. Okay? That's going to require effort on my part. I really don't care about the pine needles, and so I just leave the pine needles there. Right? So you might have this really awesome thing that will move pine needles easier and better than a rake can, like a leaf blower, but I really don't care because I just leave my pine needles anyway. See the difference here? It can solve the problem, and there is a problem that the pine needles are in my yard, but it's not really a need that I have. Okay, so we want to define those two. So one way we do this is a Mad Lib. You guys remember this when you were kids? The little Mad Libs where you have to come up with this and you fill in the nouns and the verbs and the adjectives. So we're going to do this. We want to solve a problem. Okay, so we do whatever the problem is for somebody. We want to be specific there. Because they are upset with our current way of doing something, okay, by their whatever they currently have. But we're different than or unlike X. So think about this in terms of a mouse. I mean a mouse as a device on a computer, not a mouse. Okay. So we're Dell and we're solving the mouse. Okay. So we do. What do? We control your computer. Okay. So we control the computer for computer users because they are upset with the little trackpad. Okay. With our new, cool, even better mouse. unlike every other mouse you've ever seen. I'm using a mouse here as an example. It's hard to differentiate in the mouse world, right? Okay. It's been around a long time. We have this. I thought I was going to be great. I had my clicker here, and my clicker won't connect for some reason, right? Bad product, bad design. Don't know what happened. Technical issue. But let's get a little bit more specific. I'm going to use users. We're going to define here dealing with cell phones. Everybody uses a cell phone, okay? But I'm going to talk to you from a user's perspective as a dad. So, think about your dad. Why do they pay your cell phone bill? I assume that most of you, they're paying the bill, right? Why do they pay the bill? They're a customer of the cell phone company, but you're the user. Okay. Why do they pay the bill? Say that again? They want to stay connected. Okay. How many of you called your dad in the last week? Okay. At least it's somewhat effective. Okay. They want to stay connected. What else? What other reason might they be paying for this? Emergencies. Okay. Fear. Fear is a great motivator to being a customer. Okay. So it solves a problem by making them feel a little bit more safe. Okay. Another one you might not think about is just your own desirability, that you actually want it and your father wants to please you. Right? So it's a gift. It's a monthly gift. Expensive monthly gift. And I'm using father only because I'm a father. Okay. And now I want to show you how this fits into our Mad Lib. Let's say my child is starting to drive. Okay. Well, the cell phone company provides a way to keep in touch with kids for paranoid dads because they're upset about not being able to make sure their kids are okay while they're away. And with a cell phone, that provides texting and voice calls, unlike a landline that is connected to a single location. The customer is the dad, the paranoid dad. The user is the child, in this case. Okay? The service is text and voice, and it's better than the alternative, which is a non-mobile landline. Right? So, if you can do this with your product and your idea, you're going a long way. Okay? So, typically at this point, I'm starting to work with people who have ideas, and so we would actually go through this. But we're going to do that a little bit later on. Okay? So one way you can do to come up with a good idea is to wave your magic wand. Waving your magic wand means if I could have anything I want, if I had a magic wand, I would do X. If you can do that, then you're starting to find what problems are there, what you could solve. Okay. If I could wave my magic wand, I could jump from here to Carroll Hall and back anytime I wanted to without having to go down the stairs, out the door, and back in. Okay. So how could we solve that? Zip line. I'm a third floor of a zip line. But wave your magic wand and take it seriously. I'm joking about the zip line. But if there's something that is causing you an issue, wave your magic wand. The other one is ask why 5 times. Can I pick on you for a minute? What's your name? Lainey? Lainey, do you work out? Okay. Some, you work out at the school or somewhere else? Just run. Okay. Why do you run? Why is it healthy? Why is running good for mental health?
It relieves stress and
So you need that. Is that something?
Yeah.
So you're
Everyone
thing.
has stress.
Everyone has stress. So you have stress, you exercise, you run, hopefully it relieves your stress. But why are you stressed?
Because
Responsibilities, school. Alright, I did the 5 whys. I kept asking, why this, and keep going. One time I did this, I almost didn't do it someone after this happened. One time I did this, and she almost ended up in tears because she was talking about procrastination, and she goes and works out because she procrastinates, and then and then we got into this really deep thing here. But what we saw was what the root of the problem is. Okay, I'm not saying any of the problem, that's why you run. But the idea being is that ultimately she's working out to be healthy and to relieve stress. Okay? So we might actually be able to solve that if we could relieve stress and help her be healthy in a faster, easier way. Then that's actually a product that might be worth working on. So let me give you a real example of one I'm working on in the lab right now. Dr. Richard Hobbs is a pediatrician at Children's Hospital. He came to me and he says, Stephen, we have this issue that these patients, pediatric patients, and they're being from age 8 to 13, 15, they are hospitalized for several weeks, up to 4 months in Children's Hospital. And they need to exercise. They actually need to get up and walk. Helps from avoiding blood clots. We've got to stop them from having bed sores, and it actually has helped them actually get through their disease. Okay. But they don't want to, right? Imagine 4 weeks of sitting in this hospital bed, up to 4 months, and it's the same thing all the time, the same scenes, all the stuff's happening, and they just don't want to do it. So I start talking to them and ask them some questions. I'm like, well, why do they need to get up? Or is this, like, why don't they? And then I went with the why don't. Why don't they get up? Well, they can't leave the floor. Like, what? You need them to exercise, but they're not allowed to leave that one loop, right? So now understand what's going on. There's no motivation, right? It's the same hallway all day long, right? It never changes. So how can we change that? Well, we can use technology. So we're building an augmented reality storytelling game that invites patients to get up and move, and the game changes, and they become a superhero, and the walls will hopefully turn into an island adventure or a space scene. And this augmented reality experience changes their world. So we know our users are patients. The customer, in this case is the hospital, they would be the ones paying, if we're just doing it, but they would be the ones paying. Okay? The problem is patients need to exercise. The value is that it will help them get better. Okay? And then our solution does it in a way that engages them. Right? So that's what we're trying to do. We want to solve these things. So we want to go through and do a few of these things, like asking about why and how do we get there to solve a problem. Okay? Another one we can go into is how and when would you see yourself using something like this? It's a question that we ask users. So first you got to know who your users are. Okay? But you have an idea. And you're like, oh, I got an awesome idea. By the way, no one's ever come into my office and said, I have this okay idea and I want to talk to you about it. They always come in and like, I have this awesome idea. Okay? I'm like, good, let me hear about it. Okay? Let me tell me. Okay? The next question I ask is, who's it for? And most of the time it's for them, right? Because that's what they're thinking about. And that's good. Okay. Well, have you asked anybody else? No. Just came to you. Okay, well, good. I'm glad you came to me because you're talking to me. Now, I'm going to go send you to find someone just like you. And I want you to ask them this question. That's the wrong question. Hold on. How and when would you see yourself using this item? Okay? And that's something you guys can do this week. Preparing for Hack and See, you come up with your ideas and you work on it. And you do that ahead of time. And then you validate that idea. Right? And the key thing is don't validate it with your mom or your best friend or your roommate because they will always say, yeah. They always, oh yeah, that's awesome, right? Our hospital AR idea, man, you just tell people you're helping children in the hospital, children's hospital, oh yeah, that's wonderful. They have no idea if it's going to be effective or not, but they want it to be, right? And they want to support me and they want to do that, and so they give you the answer you want to hear. Okay? That's why 5 whys will get you there. So you start with this one. Do you think you would actually use my app? Yeah, I would. When would you use it? I might use it on the bus. Why would you use it on the bus? Well, because that's the time I'm bored. Okay. So basically, all your product is good for is when people are bored. You couldn't actually compete with Netflix, right? So you get the idea. So what I want us to do is do an exercise that helps us to come up with some ideas. So we want to create a desirable idea, okay, that is good for users. Okay. So our users are going to be 16 to 24-year-old drivers. 16 to 24-year-old drivers. The problem we're trying to solve is we want to stop them from texting and driving. Because everyone will tell you, no, you shouldn't text and drive. But when it comes down to it, they all do it. Okay? So we could go around and we could go find 16-year-olds and people in here who are the age group we just defined, and we'll ask them the question, why do you text and drive? Okay? And some of them will lie to you, and they're like, no, I don't. Okay? But sometimes you can get to, well, only if my mom texts me. Right? So you're going to tell your mom the only time you're risking your life is when she texts you, she's going to stop texting you. Okay? But we go through this and we walk through this idea. Okay? But what I want us to do is to brainstorm on ideas and assume we've already talked to somebody. Okay? We're going to brainstorm on how we might solve this problem. Okay? So what I need you to do is to get in groups of 4 or 5 and go to the walls. Okay? So these are probably not the best areas. You can go to this door, like kind of that little wooden panel over there, maybe one over there by the coat rack, one over here, and let's just kind of get in groups of. And if some of the organizers can help me for a second. Everybody needs a marker and a stack of Post-its. And I'll get some more Post-its here. That should be 2 groups. Oh, okay. Somebody come up here to the. Alright. Does everybody have a Sharpie? Like, not just one in the group, everybody needs one. Everybody needs one. Alright, so everybody's got some Post-it notes, split them up, make sure that everybody's got a little stack of Post-it notes. Now you'll need to go over to a wall. Everybody get to a wall. And what you're going to do here is on your own, without talking to your friends, you're going to try to solve the problem with an idea. So for example, I might say, create new law. Okay, that's one. Okay. Make game with incentives. Okay, and you put it up there, and you just do one after the other after the other. This is about speed. How many ideas can you come up with in 3 minutes? Okay, so you're not really talking, you just take it, put it on the wall, take it, put it on the wall. Okay, you ready? Go. 15 seconds. All right, finish what you're doing. Finish that one up. In 3 minutes, we just came up with over 200 to 250 different ideas. Okay? Maybe they're not all different, maybe they're not all good. That's what we're going to decide. Okay? All right, so what I want you to do is, as a group, you're going to talk to each other. If you don't know each other, say your name, introduce yourself, and share just enough of your idea of what you think would be a good one. So you're going to go around and you're going to say, okay, so you say just enough so people do. AI responds to messages. Like, if someone writes you while you're driving, it automatically says what you think she would say. Okay, and then you move on and you go to it. You do it real quick, like 10 seconds an idea, just enough so everybody knows what it is. And what the point of this is for you to discuss and choose what are the top 5 ideas from the whole group. So out of your 50 or 30, however many ideas you got to choose 5, and only 5, okay? And you're going to put them on this piece of paper in an order. From a good idea to the most amazing idea on the bottom, okay? So this one over here changes the world and no one has a car accident ever again because next to that messaging. And this one's probably going to have an impact. Okay, and then there's that scale in the middle. So 1 through 5, go ahead and do that. We'll take several minutes to do this. So go ahead and start talking, and I'll let you know when we're getting done.
Oh, yes. Yes. Yeah.
All right, start negotiating and trying to figure out what's your top 5. All right, by this point, you need to have your 5 on the paper. Okay? All right, 20 seconds. All right, let me have everybody's attention, okay? All right, what you've done is to try to give yourself a framework for assessing these ideas. Okay? And so you've listed them out 1 through 5, okay? I'm going to give you 30 more seconds. You can see some groups don't have them all right there. And what you do is put them on the bottom of the paper, and you're going to draw this graph, okay? And to draw the graph, put it on the paper, and then we're going to do it again, okay? 30 seconds. You can see it back there. If you put it back there. Just 2 lines, and I'll explain what the axes are in a minute. I'll explain the labels in a second. Don't worry about it. Okay. Don't worry about the labels. Just draw the lines. Okay. All right. So we've just determined value. Okay. The bottom axis is how valuable the idea is. Okay. But now we want to assess: is this something that we can do in our Hack and See event, or if this was a company, could we actually execute it with the resources we have? Okay. And that's what the vertical axis is going to be about. So this is about effort. So something that costs a lot of money, is really difficult to execute, and you don't know if you could, actually do it, is going to be at the highest point. And something that, yes, we could do that in a 3-day weekend, that's going to be at the lowest point. Okay? Now, what you have to do is everything must be on a unique side. So if you guys want to come around, I'm going to take my good idea and be like, all right, this is about the middle of the road. This is a good idea, but it's going to be really expensive. I'm going to make a self-driving car. That'll solve everything, but oh wait, that's even more expensive. So nothing can be on the same line, okay? And so you assess them all and figure out where they're going to go, okay? So do that for each column, okay? Go ahead and do it for each idea. How hard is it? All right, you got to make some choices. Okay, you've got 30 seconds. All right, 5 seconds. All right, let me have your attention up here. Now what you're going to do is you're just going to put a line down the middle in both ways to create 4 quadrants. So it's kind of like that. Oh, no. I'll do it in a second. You get the idea. All right. You have these 4 quadrants. Something that is not as good of an idea, but has significant cost. It's going to be harder and may not be worth your time. As something that's an awesome idea for a low cost. So if you had an idea that ends up in this lower right quadrant, then that's probably something that's worth trying to pursue over the hackathon, right? But if you had it kind of in the middle, then you have to make a decision, okay? So go ahead and look at it. Is there one that fell in that quadrant? Maybe, maybe not. All right. Now, what you might find is that even though something ended up in that quadrant, that's not the one you want to work on. You know how sometimes you make a decision by flipping a coin, and then you're like, oh, that's not what I wanted. Well, then you know what you wanted, right? This is the idea. Sometimes it might be worth going for the grand slam. Go for that home run that, yes, it's a great idea, but yes, it's expensive. But it's going to change the world, right? And so you choose to go that way. Right? You got nothing to lose in hack and see, so you might go that way. The point of this is just to help you assess your ideas and see what you want to work on. Okay? So did any group come up with something that you think is going to stop the texting and driving? Blockchain. That's the answer to everything. If you just say blockchain, you'll get a grant, and everybody's going to solve the whole world. So, all right, what did you guys have over there? What's your top right over there? That's right. You create a law, you got to be able to enforce it using technology to do that. Right? What do you guys have? Top right. I'm sorry. Self-driving cars. We have no more problems. I can text all I want. So, all right, we're going to keep going. We've got 10 more minutes. So come on, have a seat, and I want to talk about prototyping. All right, so stage 1 is coming up with an idea. Well, I guess stage 1 is actually having a team. Stage 2 is coming up with an idea. And then stage 3 is being able to execute. So I love prototyping. Sometimes that's with paper, sometimes that's in software, sometimes it's a physical thing. So there was a computer science student a couple years ago. His name was Shao Ritter, if you remember him. He now works at YouTube, and he works on search for YouTube. Very focused on a very specific idea. But he came to my office, and he's like, I got this great idea. And he's like, I have this sleep problem where I cannot get out of bed. I'm like, what? He goes, it's not like lazy college student. It's like literally I cannot wake up. So I want a bed that when my alarm goes off, it will literally pick me up and like throw me out of the bed. Okay? So he's got these drawings and all this. I'm like, okay, let's see what we can do here. First, let's find out is anybody else doing this. Nobody else. That's a good thing or a bad thing, however you want to look at it. Okay. The second thing, I'm like, well, let's actually see the physics of this. Okay. So I want you to go get a doll from the store. Go to Walmart, buy a Barbie doll. I want you to make a cardboard bed that has a hinge system that fits your drawings, and you got to make a version of this. Okay. So what he does is he makes it, and he makes Barbie like lift up, and like Barbie like literally falls this way, right? And I was like, well, how are you going to solve for that? And he's like, oh, well, I'll tuck the sheets in. So like we took the sheets, we do this thing. Ultimately, what we come up with, after spending about $20, we find out like this is a bad idea. Okay. And he went on and he did on something else. He created an app called Roof. Has anybody used it? Has nothing to do with getting out of bed. Okay? But his idea was he wanted to solve the problem for roommate communication and sharing of chores and everything. And then we went through this ideation process, and he built a version, and then we started adding features to it. And ultimately, what started out as a hackathon project turned into a class project that then turned into a startup that then now he has revenue, and he's making all kinds of great opportunities for him and his co-founder. And so it all started as a hackathon, right? We failed with a prototype on something that was a bad idea, okay? Switchgear did something completely different, had nothing to do with the original one, and they built another prototype on paper and then with a Google form, and then ultimately like making a piece of software that's now valued, right? So we want to create a model that helps us to do this. This prevents us from wasting a lot of time and money, okay? And it helps us to improve the product over time, okay? So we're going to build some prototypes. We're running out of time, so I'm not going to go into those. But I like to use the minimum viable product idea, an MVP. It's basically what are the basic features that you need to prove this works, okay? It's not about having all the features that's going to beat Apple. Okay, it's not about having enough things that you're going to be the most robust product on the market. It's about proving your theory that you have something. Okay? So a first step is a prototype. Your second step is your MVP. Okay. So if you put this in hackathon terms, night number 1 or 2, you should have a prototype. By the end of the last night, or about demo time, hopefully that's an MVP. Minimum viable product, just enough to prove what you've got has value. That it is a valuable solution to the problem. Okay? For investors, it demonstrates that you're focused and that what you have is valuable. Right? And so I'm constantly doing this. Sometimes I talk in proof of concept, then prototype, then MVP, then a beta. This is how you do an MVP. If you're trying to build a car, you don't start with the wheels, add the axle, put the body on, and you've got it. Okay? That is iterative. Okay? But what you really do is, okay, I'm trying to get from point A to point B. Skateboard works. It would be really nice if I could steer it. Add a steering handle here. Okay? And I could get much more efficient if I had bigger wheels. So then it becomes a bicycle. And if I added a motor to my bicycle, now all of a sudden I'm almost there, but people are like falling over. So let's make it a car. Now I'm carrying more people, right? It iterates over time. Okay. This is how you get to the MVP part: is you do one step along the way. Okay? Don't try to build the end result. This is the Microsoft's in the 80s way of doing it. I'm very serious. They had a goal in mind, and if they spent 8 years getting there, they would do it. But then the market has changed, and things have moved, and they've missed. Right? Microsoft is doing a lot better now, but for a while. Zappos. Does anybody know Zappos' story? The online shoe retailer. Guy in Seattle has this idea, and he says, it was pro. Anyway, Pacific Northwest. He has this idea that people might buy shoes online, but I don't know, because you got to try them on. You got to have that feel. Would people actually buy shoes online? So what does he do? He goes to a shoe store. He takes pictures of all the shoes that are out there. He builds a very simple website with a shopping cart on it. And he starts advertising a little bit on Google AdWords. And he's selling shoes. No markup. So literally, when someone orders a pair of Nikes that he had on his site, he goes to that store, buys it, and ships it to him. And in 1 month, he found out that people will buy shoes online. He tested his hypothesis, it was successful, and then ultimately he built things. Right? That's what we want to do. Right? We want to build something that proves what we're trying to do. And it doesn't always have to be super technical, it just has to work. Right? Just the basics. Okay? Sometimes simplicity is best. Sometimes just getting it done is important. Right? So it might be boring. Don't spend a lot of time making it beautiful when you're going to throw it away tomorrow. Right? So use frameworks. Right? Use Bootstrap if you're on the web. Right? Use React. Use something that makes your life easier. Don't think you have to code everything from scratch. Okay? The idea is viable product. Okay? And then do one thing and do one thing well. Okay? You've got an idea, solve it, don't add too many features to it. And then can you be like the Zappos guy I'm thinking? Right? Can you build enough that helps you test that then helps you get investors into it? Now, I'm not talking about lying to anybody. I'm talking about just doing enough to make it work to see if you can do it. I want to tell you one little story and we'll close on these questions. I used to go to hackathons where I would assemble the team. Okay? And we would go compete against other universities and I would have my team, and we'd go over there, and I'd stay up all night with everybody else. And we never lost. Every single time we went, we took a team, and we always got the grand prize of the hackathon. You think, wow, isn't that amazing? Well, what it was we were focused on the MVP. We were focused on doing what we knew how to do, but doing it in a different way. We took hackathons as an idea, as a chance of, let's spend 3 days working on nothing but one thing that we want to solve a problem for. So we came in with a problem we wanted to solve, we came in with an idea, and we stayed focused on the MVP. Okay? Focused on that goal of doing just one thing. And then when you present to the judges, you only present that one thing, and you present how it changes lives, how it solves the problem, how it makes life better. And that pitch to the judges was actually the difference. Actually, you don't have anything to do with tech. No one's checking your code for one of these things, right? They're looking at the value of the idea. Now, I ultimately stopped going to these hackathons because I realized this was more about competition than learning. Okay? And people got so stressed out, and I was like, that's not the point. Okay? The point of the hackathon is for you to learn, okay? And to work through and solve a problem. Okay? So don't worry about what the judges think. Okay? Worry about who your user is and what problem you're solving for them. Okay? So now we send students to hackathons and hope they do great. We give them these skills and we go do that and we say, go do it. But don't feel the pressure to win. It's about solving a problem for your user. Okay? All right. Any questions? Nothing? All right. Another thing I'd say about hackathons, if you know something and someone's struggling with it, be helpful. Right? Help each other's community. There's a student in one of my classes right now who came to Pearl Hacks 4 years ago, the first Pearl Hacks. She was a high school student. She showed up, and I could tell their team was struggling, so I go over there, and I'm like, what are you doing? What are y'all thinking about? Well, they didn't have an idea, so first we got to an idea. And then I'm like, what languages do you speak? Or, sorry, what languages do you know? So I said, and they said, Spanish? I'm like, no, like, what computer languages? Well, we don't know any. Like, nobody in the group did. And I'm like, how did you end up here? You know, they're like, well, our teacher suggested we come here. I'm like, okay, well, I'm glad you're here. So, at 1 o'clock in the morning, we started learning HTML. 2 o'clock in the morning, we moved to CSS. And at 3 o'clock in the morning, we moved to JavaScript. Okay? And guess what? These 4 high school girls built a website that you could go to and decide if you were depressed or not. It would basically ask you a series of questions and say, are you depressed or are you just sad? And if you're just sad, it would send you to a YouTube page with puppy videos. Okay, and if you were depressed, it would connect you to the right people so that you could get help. Exciting, valuable tool for these high school girls who are at this thing. Okay, one of them is in my class right now, right? And that's really exciting. That experience for them was a big deal. We're out of time. All right. Thank you very much. Have fun. Hope it goes well. Thank you so much. I'm teaching emerging technologies next semester. It's virtual reality, augmented reality, artificial intelligence, and robotics in an applied way. He's taking the class.
I recommend you take it. It's
What's
awesome.
the course number?
588. It's a J School 588.
I might retake it too. Can you retake the class? I don't know.
No, ETA it for me.